Guten Morgen, team. All right. I had a few commenters say that they'd like me to talk a little bit more about what I'm doing when I'm actually here, because there's a lot of things that I'm doing that you're really not seeing, and that's just because I'm doing it while I'm used to it. But we could talk about a little bit of what I'm doing. All right, so this filter is running out of this surge tank. There's a surge tank back here. My ladder's gone, so I can't show you. But this surge tank controls the raft slide that I have over here. I have 5 slides there, and I've got 6 pumps here, and they run the raft attraction called the snake pit. So when I first walk in, there's 2 things I'm checking. I'm going to check. I'm going to look at my pressures here. So we have influent and effluent. Okay. So you'll see the effluent is a lot lower and the influence high. So what's happening, if we look in there, you can see the tubes, right? So those tubes are holding the media, the filter media, and that's the filter bed basically. Now this Defender filter is what we call a regenerative filter. The regenerative filter, this one specifically, you can use either diatomaceous earth, what we call DE, relatively known in the industry, or you can use what's called Perlite. Now we use the product called Perlite. It's a little bit safer than DE, and you can actually see it says right here, Defender filter is designed to operate with Perlite or diatomaceous earth, DE. So what's happening is when the filter coats onto the tubes, that media stays on there. It's being compressed into the tube, and it stays on there, and that creates the filter bed. So if you follow right here, this tube is coming directly from the pump. See it? Coming from the pump. This is influent, and the easy way to figure that out, what's the difference between influent and effluent? Influent is in pressure, okay? Effluent's out pressure. So what it's saying is currently the pressure in the filter at this point is 10. This one goes from the top, and that's the out pressure, okay? So what it's saying is my differential right now is roughly 10 minus 2, so roughly 8 differential, 8 PSI. The maximum you can do here is 15 on this filter specifically, okay? So that means that the media right now is a little dirty. It's got a lot of particulate inside of it. Now, the thing about a regenerative is I'm gonna knock everything off, I'm gonna restart it, and a lot of the heavy stuff is gonna stay at the bottom while the media sticks back to the tube, okay? And then my differential is gonna be a lot less. Should be almost even. Right now, the filters, this media is a little older now that we've been sitting on it, so it's probably gonna be at around the 3 or 4 differential, which is okay, that's fine. Okay, so another thing I'm gonna check is right here. Okay, this is a vacuum gauge, and you'll see right now it's showing -3 bars of mercury. I think I'm reading that right. That means the vacuum is the vacuum's -3 right now. Okay, somebody could tell me the math there. I don't know it. So that means that the filter or the basket right now has a little bit of trash in it, so the pump is having to work a little harder to pull the water through the basket because it's got a bunch of junk in it. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do 2 things. We're going to do a bump cycle, which is going to regenerate the filter, and then I'm also going to clean out the basket, okay? Which will be super simple. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn the pump off first. You can hear the pump now, it's walking down. Okay, and while it's doing that, I'm gonna go into a bump cycle. Okay, you can't see it, right? You can't see it, no. But up there, well, maybe right there, hopefully, you'll see there's a valve there. And that valve is currently closed. That's returning to the pool. We don't want the water to return to the pool at this point, because we're in bump cycle. All this media is gonna be loose and fresh, and it actually goes through the tubes. And if we were to send the water back to the pool, it would actually dump the media in the filter all into the pool. We don't wanna do that, okay? So let's do a bump cycle. You're gonna see it. You see it fall down, and then you'll start to see it come out in clumps. Hopefully there we go. Okay. Now we can see that the media is in solution. All right, so I'm gonna let that work. And I'm gonna work on this basket real quick. Whoops, that valve's a little tight. That's okay. Now, the reason I have to shut the valve here is because if you see how high it is off the ground, the water in this tank is about right here, depth-wise. So, I mean, that's almost 6 feet versus right here 3 feet. So gravity is gonna push water out this basket. So right now, again, the pump's off. The pump is off. And you see the water kind of starting to come up here. That means the valve is not all the way shut. Well, that's okay. There we go. Okay, you can hear that it stopped the bump cycle. It does it 10 times, and that's just enough to get all the media off the tubes and back into solution. So it actually shouldn't be terrible. Yeah, it's not that bad at all. Oh, but I do see something that I don't like. All right, let me get a basket. Don't worry about that wire, it's not hot, locked out. Okay, so all right, well, it didn't want to work for me. It's got a lot more junk in it than I was expecting and didn't have a huge vacuum draw. Okay, well, one thing that was in there, look at that. That's an ice bag. Fun. Now, a lot of times people will go ahead and clean their baskets all the way with water and all that. That's okay, you can do that. It's not a big deal. It's all about your procedures. But for us, we just need to get rid of the big clumps and it'll be just fine. Just fine. All right, get rid of that, get rid of that. All right. Okay, what I like to do is I'm gonna open this up a little bit, let the gravity from the surge tank go ahead and push a little bit of this trash out. And onto the floor, it'll go into the pit, trash pit. All right. All right, too easy, right? Okay. Make sure it's all nice and clean. And then what I do, if you notice, just take a little bit of the water, clean off the tops. Because I want to be able to see inside, right? So if we clean it, be able to see everything. Okay, I had to take a phone call, sorry about that. A lot of moving parts today, or this week. Okay, now this O-ring's a little stretched, so we might have some trouble getting it in, but we're gonna figure it out little by little. Okay, one thing I like to do here, I typically like to have this next to the bar so it doesn't get broken. So we're gonna do that. Just turn it just a little bit. The gasket's sticking out there. All right, come on, buddy. There we go. Alrighty. Yeah, see it's sticking out right there. I don't have my knife, or not my knife, but my multi-tool anymore. I broke it. I need to get a new one. Anybody want to send me a Gerber? I'll be nice. I'll be happy about that. Alright. There we go. Okay. Okay, you see now we can see inside of there, which is then what we want. We want to be able to see inside of the basket. That'll give us an indication of how bad and dirty it is, besides the pressure or the vacuum gauge. Okay. Now, what we can do is open this back up and check to see if we got any leaks. Ow. Looking pretty good, actually. Okay. So now what's going to happen is, again, let's talk about this. This is coming from the surge pit. That's where my source water's at. It's going to go through here, pass through the basket. The pump is going to pick it up, go across. Don't worry about this pipe. This is the drain pipe. You'll see it's off, right? That's going to go bottom of the filter, compressing all the media to the tubes, and then it's going to come back in this great 4-inch right here and pass through here. So if you remember this is one of the pipes that blew up last year that we had to work on, that I worked on. You're gonna actually see the media pass through here. So that's where I'm telling you why we don't send it directly to the pool right now, because it's in solution. Over time, it's gonna build up onto the tubes, and that's going to make the filter bed. This is what we call the pre-coat, okay? So let's get in pre-coat. You can see it's all white. So the media is in solution, it's in water. Okay. Now what'll happen is the filter says the motor's running. It's going to open this valve automatically, pneumatically. Okay, see it? That's all media. And little by little, it's going to start to go clear. So you can see, you can't see my hand through it. And now what's happening is there's a little bit of suction, so I can tighten the basket down just a little bit more if I need to keep it from leaking. And there's two reasons why we want to do that. Yeah, it's just water, and of course I spilled water on the floor, but if we don't keep the lid nice and tight, what could happen over time if there's an air leak and we do have some suction, heavy suction, it's going to pull air into the basket and at some point pull into the pump, and we don't want that. We don't want air in our system at all. So we want to keep this as tight as possible and no leaks, okay? So you'll see now, hopefully you can see it. You can see my hand through it now. So now the media is starting to clump up onto the tubes. Now some of it's still in solution, but here shortly we should be able to see it go onto the tubes, right? So while it's doing that, let's talk about the filter itself. So right here, you'll see I've got a air water separator with a pressure regulator valve or gauge or whatever. Yeah, pressure regulator valve. And what that does is it's feeding the bottom of the filter right here to 3 pneumatic actuators. And those pneumatic actuators control the bump, which is on top, which looks like a tire. Let me see if we can see this. Okay, right there, you see the tire? That's what comes down and makes the bump. So now it's up, that means it's in regular mode, in filter mode. And you can see the valve that goes to the pool is closed still. The way you can tell is the pipe comes down right here, but the red lines are crisscross, right? So that means the valve is shut. Okay. Now this one usually does pretty good. Oh, look, we're almost able to see the tubes already. And you can see it's really clear now. Look at that. I don't have to close this one just because I don't need to close it. We'll close this one if we're gonna drain the pool. Now you'll see on the clock here it says remaining 7 minutes now. So for the pre-coat, you'll see it says pre-coat regen. This one's set up to run for 10 minutes. So right now, if I were to walk away, it would do everything automatically. It would change back into regular filter mode after the pre-coat and start sending back water to the pool. But I'm gonna babysit it just a little bit because a lot of times it'll coat a lot quicker. And you can see we've got a beautiful coat on these tubes already. Now there's some trash still in solution. If it's heavy enough, it'll fall to the bottom. If not, it'll stay there. Now, look at my pressures though. Remember what we talked about? The differential. So right now it's at a 10 here and about a 13 or 14. So right now the differential is only about 3 or 4 PSI, which is fantastic, which is what we want, okay? So it's actually going really good. So on this filter, if you know what you're doing and you know everything's ready to go and valves and everything are working, you can bypass the pre-coat and get back into regular filter mode, which for during the operating day, because we just have so many people in the pools, the less time you have it in bump mode and trying to do this regen, the better for the pool itself. You know, we don't want to stop filtering for a very long time. Very short time as much as possible. So if you have a defender and you want to do this, it's these two bottom buttons right here. Okay, you click them at the same time, it's going to give you the option to end pre-coat. Okay, so if we watch the valve up here, it's going to open. Okay. Hopefully you can see it opening. It's right here. I don't know. It's kind of hard to do with my hands. Okay. Now it's pulling water from the pool now, and it's going to close this valve. So now we have direct suction from the bottom of the surge tank. You see it's flowing really good. Now let's look at our vacuum. Okay. You see now our vacuum is 0 because now all the pressure, all the gravity is filling this up as quick as it's pushing the water to the filter. Now I'm looking for when we're working through our pre-coat and our filter change and all that. In some of the videos you'll see I put my hand on the motor. All I want to do is when I'm checking is to make sure that the motor's not excessively hot. And I'm checking on both sides, both bearings if you will. So there's a bearing here and there's a bearing here. So I just want to feel to make sure that it's not overly hot, okay? And this one feels really good, okay? And these motors are called TEFC. So I'm gonna look at this one. If we look, it's gonna be hard to see it, but this is a TEFC, which stands for totally enclosed fan cooled. So there's a fan right here, and that fan takes air from back here and blows it onto these fins, which this is a heat sink. It's like a heat sink, okay? So that's all that is, okay? And it feels really good. So having the fan on your motor is very important because it's fan cooled. In any event, that's all I got for you today, boys and girls. Thanks so much for joining me. We'll see you on the next one. Take care.